is Gosbert Chagula with a speech entitled More Than One Story. More Than One Story. Please welcome Gosbert Chagula.
AIDS, poverty, famine, corruption. We can find these dangers of human endeavour in one place and one place only, and that is Africa. A place where our nightmares become reality, a land devoid of any history, but stocked full of misfortune. Now, contest chair, fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. Unfortunately, this has become the accepted narrative around the discussion of the great continent. But today's speech is not a rant on mainstream media or society as a whole. It's a personal journey, because the words that I uttered were my beliefs when growing up. This vision of Africa skewed and influenced. And I realise today, my focus of my speech is to encourage you to look at Africa in a new light, the continent, its intricacies, its different cultures, and start your own journey, whether it be as an intrepid traveller or a simple Google search online. Now, our journey starts in a very special place. And that journey starts with the idea of Africa being one country. On a trip to Dubai, I came back and I found Emirates Airline announced on the PA system, we're doing great work in India, Vietnam, and Africa. Now, such laziness makes us skirt over the intricate stories and the facts of the continent as we move from darkness to light. A continent of 1.1 billion people, over 2,000 recognized languages. A continent as diverse, stretching from Algeria in the far north to South Africa in the very south. The place where the remains of the first anatomic humans were discovered in what is now Namibia. But more importantly, there's something subtle at work here which I realized, which was in me, and that is the vision of what an African truly is. Now, when you think African, you think of me, chocolate skin. But the stories are a lot more deeper than that. And when we think of Africa as a whole, we miss these people. This diverse collection of people. A man and woman in the top right from Kano in northern Nigeria. A family from central Zimbabwe. And a lady from South Africa. Now, both myself being chocolate skinned, and these people share one commonality. And that's that we trace our lineage back to Africa, if not decades, but hundreds of years. Now, as we move forward there, and do my own research as a British-born African from Tanzania, I counted my second point, which was this, that my knowledge of Africa, and I'm ashamed to admit, starts at 1870. Now, 1870, why is that an important date? Because that's the year at which the colonial powers divided the continent into several spheres of influence, British, French, sometimes Spanish. Now, I realised what this actually does is that it misses out what came before colonialism and the years that followed. In my reading, I read about the Axum Kingdom, located in now modern-day Ethiopia, a great trading empire which specialised in spices, herbs, and influence which stretched from Yemen in the Middle East to what is now modern-day Beijing. I then moved on and continued my reading and found out about the great kingdom of Ghana, of which the modern nation-state is named afterwards. They innovated in taxation, decentralisation of government, and at one point controlled the biggest monopoly on world gold reserves. All these stories seemingly forgotten. Now, as I think about the history and importance of thinking about where I'm from, I realized my perception was skewed through a lack of knowledge about my own country, exactly where I come from. Now, all these stories are all good and well, but there's also a more personal story in my journey to talk about Africa as a whole. One of my earliest memories was being dragged through Heathrow Airport. My mother beaming with pride, my father smiling, and me with a foreboding sense of doom as I dragged my way through to Terminal 4 at Heathrow to our flight to Tanzania. We spent our summers in Tanzania in a place called Bukoba, a small fishing village in the north of the country. Now, in my summers in Bukoba, I played with cattle, I ran from insects, but Bukoba was the end of the earth for young Gosbert. There was no TV, no chocolate, and most importantly, to my younger self, no ice cream. When I think about those summers, one question I was asked when I returned back from school, and it's a question I'm asked now, even as an adult. And that question is, Africa, that sounds great. Was it dangerous? And I couldn't marry my experience in Bukoba and those long summers, which seemed like years, to the reality on the ground for my younger self. Now, as I evolved into a teenager, I avoided my visits to Tanzania. It was the plague. It was the place where I disliked vehemently. My opinions and beliefs shaped through a TV camera, from war zones, and also the potent words of foreign correspondents. Africa, too dangerous, too wild. And I was an adult, and in preparation for my speech, I did some research. I went over to the Foreign Office, and I looked at the stats. And in my learnings, I realized that there are more British tourists injured or suffer mishaps in Malaga in Spain than happened in the whole of 2014 on the continent of Africa. Funnily enough, I looked deeper and found that on the Foreign Office's top 10 global hotspots or places not to go on holiday, only one African city ranks, and that is Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, perhaps I'm more mature, perhaps my views have changed, but something has shifted. Now, today's been about thinking about more than one story, going beyond the accepted narrative. At the start of my speech, I spoke about famine, corruption, filth. Perhaps when we think about Africa, we use different words. A land of diversity, hope, evolution, progress, and most importantly, a future. From the savannah in Kenya to Cape Coast in Ghana, to Lagos, Nigeria, to the Casbah in Algeria, to central Zimbabwe and beyond, I encourage all of you to take your first steps, whether it be as an intrepid traveler, an adventure tourist, or simply doing a Google search. I invite all of you to go beyond the single narrative. There is more than one story. Thank you.